Hey everyone! Today I want to talk about Amar Akbar Anthony from 1977 by Manmohan Desai. This is the 24th episode of my 1000 favorite movie series, where I talk about the movies I love the most in a random order. I feel like one huge part of film history that many Western cinephiles are just ignorant about for the most part is Bollywood, and I'm certainly one of them. I've seen a few of the most famous classic ones, but it's such a massive film industry that I feel like I really don't know anything about it. But from what I've seen so far, I'm totally here for it. A large amount of them seem to be musicals that have loads of action, romance, and plots built around wild coincidences. In other words, right up my alley. From a few of these I've seen, one of my favorites was the most popular Indian movie of 1977, Amar Akbar Anthony. As with seemingly every other movie in this genre, this is a 3 hour epic with many twists and turns. In the beginning, a father gets revenge on his former mob boss employer by stealing his money, but while being chased by his men, he leaves his three children in the middle of a courtyard. They get separated, and each gets rescued by three different adults: a cop, a tailor, and a priest. The cop raises Amar, who becomes a police inspector. The tailor raises Akbar, who becomes a singer. And the priest raises Anthony, who ironically runs a bar while still working with his adopted father during services. They're brought together when they're all called upon to donate blood to a blind woman who got hit by a car, who little do they know is actually their mother. That's the basic setup, but many things happen from there. Too many to even give an outline of without spoiling one of the pleasures of the movie, which is the relentless pace of incidents the characters go through, including fights, car chases, arrests, disguises, miracles, kidnappings, escapes, all three leads falling in love, and, of course, many revelations. I've never really seen anything else quite like this in any other movie. It really is nonstop. There are very few scenes where people simply stand around talking without directly advancing the plot forward or providing clear character development. Most of it is action of some kind, and the pure amount of incidents that happen in its long 3 hour length reminds me of the serials of Louis Fouillade. The one downside of this approach is that when the movie does finally reach its climax at the end, even though it has the three brothers together for the first time, it can still feel a little underwhelming. And I get the feeling that the movie either could have gone on longer or ended earlier if it really wanted to. But when you're having a good time being swept away by the lightning fast pacing, complaining seems useless. The other thing this movie has is, of course, musical numbers. Even though it only has six of them, they're all memorable and interesting in some ways. For example, the first one is simply a concert that Akbar has, but it's also a flirtation with one of the women in the audience. Her father doesn't like it, and a singing Anthony messes with him. There's sort of a mini story here that works comedically, so it's not just the music that keeps our attention. And that's always the case. There's always some sort of story that's happening alongside the music, usually of the comedic variety, that make the numbers very lively. The music itself is great too. I really enjoy listening to indie music in movies, and this is no exception. There are even some memorable lyrics, which this is the only case of an Indian movie where that exists for me. Namely, "My name is Anthony Gonzalez," and "Amar Akbar Antony." The performances are also memorable, with the standout being Amitabh Bachchan as Anthony Gonzalez. Unfortunately, I've hardly seen any movies with this very famous movie star as of now, so I don't know what his characters are typically like. But what I can say is that he nails the role of the funny man in this movie. He has lots of charisma, and his height gives him a uniqueness that works to his advantage. He can also pull off non comedic scenes very well, such as the scene late in the movie where he tearfully talks to God. When he talks about his upbringing, it's touching because here's essentially the clown in the bunch talking about his past in a serious way, rounding out his character more. I also enjoy the villain, Robert, played by Jivan, who has one of the purest villain looks you can imagine, and he certainly lives up to it. There are more fun characters in the movie, such as the father who turns from being innocent to gang member back to loving father, or the loving mother who became blind after being hit by a falling tree, and they all help to give the movie even more energy that makes it a fun time. Speaking of fun, let me talk about my favorite moments in the movie. This was my favorite moment the first time I saw this movie, and that's the beginning of the My Name is Anthony Gonzalez number. Firstly, the scene before is Anthony just missing the girl he loves as she drives off, with sad music playing in the background, when instantly we cut to a ballroom with a big egg being carted into the room, and the music jarringly changes to some elevator music type song. We see the same girl and her bodyguard at the party, with like no setup shot establishing that they're now here all of a sudden. Then the egg opens to reveal Anthony dressed up wearing a top hat and a monocle, and he says some gibberish speech in English. Everyone yells, "What?" And the song starts. You have to watch it in order to get a sense of just how fast this all happens. And like I said, this was a moment that stuck with me the most the first time I saw this, mostly because of how jarring and sudden it is. Another moment that happens very quickly is later. This moment is the epitome of just how many incidents there are and how quickly everything happens. It starts with the mother going into a hospital room where Robert, the bad guy, is. They decide to drive her somewhere for some reason, and the car crashes, sending the mother rolling out of the door and escaping the men. This all happens within 30 seconds. I'm not kidding. The car crashes literally 15 seconds after the scene begins, with the music pumped up the whole time, giving you no time to catch your bearings. Maybe the reason why this was done so unbelievably quickly was to keep the audience from questioning why they're driving her. It has nothing to do with before and what Robert's goal is. It's basically just an excuse to get the mother into this environment, the location of my next favorite scene. She stumbles upon a musical number, Akbar singing at some kind of temple with a full congregation. It's probably not the best song in the movie, but it's sung energetically and passionately, and the crowd makes this one of the cheeriest numbers in the movie. But beyond the song, the real reason why this is one of my favorite scenes is because of its religious element, where miracles are a common occurrence. They're singing to the statue of a god, and it makes several things happen. It summons a snake to scare away the bad guys, it gives fire to these lights hanging up in the temple, and most importantly, it restores the mother's eyesight by literally giving her fire from its eyes. All this happens while the song just continues and continues, building into a true religious fervor that gives the scene more power than any other in the movie. But in the end, what I love about Amar Akbar Anthony is that it's a great insight into Bollywood, an area of world cinema that's always eluded me. It's a kind of movie that's just not made in Hollywood, a mix of many different genres that, for what it lacks in a certain slick polish and sheen, is greatly made up for in action, music, comedy, and above all, high spirits. If you want a fun time watching a movie, then it's hard to imagine doing much better than this. It's one of my 1000 favorite movies. Thanks for watching my video. Goshou makoto ni arigatou gozaimasu. Have you seen Amar Akbar Anthony? Let me know what you think in the comments. I think of all of my favorite movies as my friends, and I think of my audience as friends too. Remember, I upload a new video every Friday, so if you want to help me complete this 1000 favorite movies epic, don't forget to like and subscribe.